You study your vocabulary and you do your grammar exercises, and no matter what you do, you still end up freezing up in conversations. Why is that? Well, let's talk about it. Hey up, mate, and cheers for finding this video today. I appreciate that. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Dan. I'm a British English teacher, and I'm here to help you feel more confident when speaking in English. Now, today we're talking all about why you freeze up in conversations and what you should do about it. So let's jump in. You study your vocabulary and your grammar, and you do all the exercises that you're supposed to do because that's what teachers have told you to do, and that's how language learning works, right? But when you get into a conversation, you freeze up. You can't find the words, you hesitate, you kind of panic, your mind goes blank. Why does this happen? Well, I think there's a few reasons, but let's talk about what actually happens. So, you freeze up in conversations. It's not your fault. It happens to everybody. It happens to me sometimes. It happens to you sometimes. But you're basically not making any progress in conversations, right? Because you study a lot, and then, you feel good when you're doing it in your textbooks and stuff like that. But when it's time to speak, your mind kind of just switches off. Like a loading computer, and it's doing the beach ball thing, and it's loading, and it can't find the words, yeah? And I think that's a problem. And, you think about 10 different ways to say the sentence, and you panic because you don't know which one is the most perfect way to do it. And yeah, so you end up freezing up in conversations. It happens, right? And usually when this happens, you start to feel bad about your English. If only I had more vocabulary and grammar, this wouldn't happen to me. So then you go back to your textbooks and you learn your words, you memorize your words, you do your fill in the gaps exercises. Maybe this textbook is not the right one. Maybe I'll buy a different textbook. This app is not the best app. Maybe there's a better app. This course is not perfect for me. Maybe I need a different course, which is good for the people who run the language learning industry. They're making a lot of money on that, aren't they? Just buy another textbook, mate. Just buy another course. Just keep buying things. It's fine. Eventually it'll work. But, when you try and fix these problems with more English, you're actually not fixing the problem. You're just adding more fuel to a fire almost. So you get in this cycle. You get stuck, so you study more, but you still struggle to speak. So you get stuck, so you study more, but you still struggle to speak, and so on and so forth. And it just keeps happening round and round and round in a circle. And it's because you've been constantly told that your lack of knowledge is the problem, right? Now, what I think you're doing wrong is that you're focusing too much on memorizing stuff, right? You've been taught that learning English means memorizing grammar patterns and memorizing lists of words and, just so you can, recall them when you need them and spit them out, and just hopefully the other person's going to understand what you mean. But if you think about it, communicating in a second language or third language or whatever it is, it requires quick thinking, not just knowing the rules, right? Knowing the rules is one thing, but being able to think and use them in real time is not the same thing. Now, you also tend to focus on stuff that's not really helpful. A lot of people, they have this idea that they need to get a certain score on a test, or they need to achieve a certain level. I need to be B2, I need to be C1, I need to be C2, whatever that is. But those levels don't really account for your personal goals, right? If you want to get to C2, you're going to have to learn a bunch of words that you probably don't need in your daily life. Now, you probably don't need academic English unless you're going to study at university. You probably don't need formal, business language unless you're going to use English at work. But C2 doesn't care about that. You need to know all of those things. You need to be able to speak like you're on the news. But it's kind of useless for most people. But people say, okay, well, if I want to be fluent, I've got to get to C2. And if I want to get to C2, I've got to learn all these crazy words. And even though native speakers don't use most of them most of the time, it's a focus on stuff that doesn't matter. And it's a focus on just memorizing more. And I want to kind of tell you that the problem is not the knowledge. Most of the time, sometimes it is, but 99% of the time, The problem isn't that you don't know enough English. It's that you don't practice it enough. You've got to practice using it. Otherwise, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to find it in a conversation. Don't matter how many times you learn it. It don't matter how many words you memorize. If you don't practice it, you can't do it. It don't matter how many different chord shapes you know how to make on a guitar. If you don't bloody practice it, you can't do it, right? And this is exactly the problem. You don't practice enough. Now, no matter how much you're practicing, if you don't feel confident, it's not enough. Okay. Like, how often should I practice, Dan? More is the answer. Now, what I suggest you try to increase your speaking practice time, right? So, first thing you can do is solo speaking practice. Now, there's a bunch of different exercises you can do where you can practice speaking every single day, even if you're on your own. You know, we're talking describing pictures, reading out loud, summarizing, shadowing, whatever it is. A bunch of stuff like that that you can do anywhere on the planet on your own. Most of the time, you don't need any materials. You've just got to start doing it. So why don't you start today? Look around you. What can you see? Describe it in English. Say the words out loud. You know, talk about what you're going to do tomorrow out loud. Get your phone, record a voice note of like what you did today. Something like that. I think just get the habit started of speaking out loud. The other thing you could do is you could have like a structured speaking plan, right? So you can find some structured speaking exercises that force you to think quickly. Like this could be things like a random question generator online and you've got to respond within 3 seconds or something. It could also be like using ChatGPT to talk to an AI thing, just so you can practice responding quickly. And I think anything you can do that makes you respond in a real-time fashion will help, even if it's something. I mean, online there's like these websites like Episoden and stuff like that, where I don't know if you guys know this, Episoden is a really cool website. It's free and you get put in a chat room with other people for 7 minutes. It's like a one-on-one chat room randomly, and they give you a topic to talk about for 7 minutes. Go under that. That's pretty cool. And speaking of which, you can speak with a partner. So something like Episoden, even if they're not a native speaker, it doesn't matter. It's the real interaction that builds the confidence, right? It's part of what I do. I've got like my Brick Speak Hub, which is a community where people can find real life speaking partners and stuff like that. So there's always a way. There's always a way. There's like loads of different language exchange services online, like Hi Native and, you know, Hello Talk and all them things. So check out those things as well. I'm not sponsored by any of these people, by the way. I just think they're pretty good. And the last thing you could do, if you really want to get more speaking practice in your life, is you can download my free speaking practice planner. Now, the link is in the description, but basically, it's a 7-day speaking practice plan. It gives you an exercise to do every single day for 7 days. It tells you exactly what you need to do and why it's a good idea. And it also comes with a tracker so you can track your progress. Like I said, totally free. Links in the description. If you're not sure where to start there and start speaking every single day, because that is how you're going to build your confidence when it comes to speaking in English. And now it's over to you. What is an English speaking practice that you do every day? Let me know in the comments. And if you find that you often forget words in conversations, it happens to the best of us, mate. But what you really need to do to stop that from happening is watch this video next.